We have somebody in what I call the failing New York Times that's talking about he's part of the resistance within the Trump administration.
This person works
with what we have to deal with. It's really a disgrace. I will say this. Nobody has done what this administration's done in terms of getting things passed and getting things through. So when you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons.
All right, so from anonymous whistleblowers to unnamed sources, the unidentified Trump critic has become a staple of this administration. Well, we're about to hear a lot more from one in particular. In fact, the author who wrote the 2018 anonymous tell-all op-ed about the resistance inside Trump's White House has now come forward to write a new book. The book is titled A Warning, and it is out next month. It will expand on his or her original op-ed, and according to Axios, it will in fact also expose private conversations with President Trump. Back with me once again, MSNBC contributor Charlie Sykes and Nayyera, a former State Department senior advisor. Charlie, let me begin with you. What do you make of having an anonymous source, or in this case, someone close to the president or within the president's orbit coming out and writing a book?
Well, I have to say it's a little bit frustrating because I think anonymity has reached its expiration date in this administration. I mean, when you have people like Marie Yovanovitch and William Taylor coming forward and laying their reputations and their careers on the line, this is kind of the moment where if you have something to tell the American people, you should tell the American people. You should be willing to step up. And I think there was a lot of that reaction early on when that New York Times op-ed piece occurred, which is like, why are you still in the administration? Why are you not willing to put your name on it? And I think we're kind of at a new phase here. So I wonder, what will this book tell us that we don't already know? And if in fact it has substantive information, put your name on it. Come out. Let the people know what it is and who you are.
Okay, so let me just push back on that really quickly, Charlie, just for a quick moment here. What's the difference between what this individual is doing with this book coming out to the American public like you've described, and let's say, for example, a whistleblower who has gone up through the proper chain of command and, quite frankly, could have been totally roadblocked had he not circumvented the process and at least made some kind of connections with members of Congress to get this out in the public?
Well, the difference is that he did follow the proper procedures in the chain of command. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He did his duty. He looked around and said, look, I have seen something. What am I obligated to do? What are the legal processes? And he did it. Look, I mean, I want to hear this information. I want to have this story. I just wish other people in the Trump administration would have the courage to come out and say, look, this is what we are seeing. With the American people need to be warned about it. And I wish they would have done it earlier. And I wish more of them would do it and be willing to step up the way some of the whistleblowers that we're seeing now have been willing to do through the proper procedures, or actually walking up to Capitol Hill and saying, this is my story.
Let me read for you guys a part of what we can expect here. This is supposed to deal with things like the president's leadership style, essentially being adversarial, petty, ineffective. This anonymous author goes on to say that meetings with him veer off topic and off the rails. He engages in repetitive rants, and his impulsiveness results in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. Nayyera, what do you make of the fact that you have somebody this close to the president describing a set of behavior that I think 2 years into his presidency have been very well documented by others? They've been described by others, as Charlie was saying, who have come forward and put this on the record with their names and their credibility attached.
I mean, it strikes me as somebody trying to have their cake and eat it too, right? They want to maintain their job and not be a direct target of President Trump, because yes, it can be very painful to have the President of the United States tweeting your name and making up nicknames for you. But that's part of what the duty is at this point. If you really truly believe in a resistance, you're not going to be part of what is complicity in executing the policies that you don't believe in. And that's something that political appointees make the decision about all the time. And what we're seeing now, as Charlie mentioned, is that these are civil servants and long-serving diplomats who are worried fundamentally about the direction of the country and the systems and our norms being undermined by this president, and they're even coming forward. So I, as a former political appointee, have a hard time accepting that somebody is writing this truly really just to be informative to the American public when there are other ways to get this information out, whether it's through proper channels or, frankly, just putting your name on it. Sally Yates did that, too, when she resigned. It goes to that broader idea that people had of, like, oh, if there's adults in the room, they can fix this. And we're seeing that, no, really the only thing that can fix this is the impeachment process, transparency, and rule of law.
It's hard to say because we have not read the entire book, but if in fact, as this person is described as a senior administration official who claims to be, as he or she describes, part of this so-called resistance, Charlie, do you get any comfort knowing that there is somebody on the inside who does not want to come forward so he doesn't resign or quit his or her job because in fact, he's trying to at least temper some of this chaos that we've heard about?
Well, that's the story that we've heard for the last 3 years, right? That they were serving the president. They were complicit in all of this because they needed to be that adult in the room who would prevent the president from going off the rails. But here we're at the moment, and the president clearly is not listening to anyone. If there are adults in the room, they're not having any influence. And so we're kind of past that point. I think that many people have rationalized their service in this administration as controlling Donald Trump. Well, that mission has failed. And I think that this is the point at which more people ought to come out. And let me just underline this point. Look, I think there are a lot of voices of people who would like to come out and talk about all of this. They know they're going to be attacked. They know that there's a price. But there's strength in numbers. And the more that are willing to stand up, I think they become role models for other people who would stand up. And this is the moment to do that.
Do you think, Nayyera, that somebody like Jim Mattis, who's obviously come forward with his resignation in objection to the president's policy in Syria, should somebody like him be praised for the way he resigned, although that while he was in the administration, some pretty bad things happened under his watch, and he was also, as Charlie was saying, at one point considered to be the adult in the room?
I think that was, again, even 2 or 3 years ago, people were walking into this thinking this would be any other presidency, and you should serve the way you would serve any other president, which is with a sense of loyalty and dignity towards the country and the dignity of the office. But when the president of the United States himself is not comporting himself that way, is undermining the Constitution, earlier this week actually even called the Emoluments Clause phony, like the phony parts of the Constitution, we're every day seeing evidence that this individual is undermining the very system that we believe in and that we are supposed to be working towards, that keep us coherent as a country. Yes, it is much bigger than doing the job in the quote-unquote the right way. Jim Mattis also is a particular example. He took off the uniform and took a politically appointed position. As a politically appointed person, it is part of your job to speak out and to help guide the president the right way. And he has full ability now as a private citizen to speak out. I think it's his duty to actually explain to the country why it is that Donald Trump has arrived at these decisions in Syria and put our national security at risk.
All right, Nayyera Hawk and Charlie Sykes, thank you both for joining us for the past 2 hours. Really appreciate it, guys.